Now, I love when I pick up a book that I've never tied out of before. I picked up a new one last week. We're going to tie out of it right now. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Savage Flies. I'm Matt. Thanks for stopping by. So the book I'm talking about is by Dick Stewart and Farrow Allen. It's called Flies for Trout, published in 1993. Now, I can't believe that I've only recently discovered this book. Farrow and Allen are pretty popular in the warm water game. They've got a couple of books out there on bass and panfish flies, but this trout book, it's really a solid book. Now, I'll probably do a review on it in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. But I was just flipping through this thing the other day, and within the first couple of pages, a fly caught my eye, and I said, I've got to tie this one. It was created by a guy named Ron Landis. It's called the Finch. Now, this is one of those flies that you might ask yourself, is it a wet fly or is it a nymph? Well, it was in the wet fly section, but it kind of reminds you of a Polly Roseboro fuzzy nymph or even a Dave Hughes all fur wet fly, but also a spider. It's got a pretty long partridge hackle. And what I really love about these kind of flies is that you can certainly fish them like you would a wet fly, actively, on a drift, or you can fish it weighted, dead drifted under a strike indicator. The thing's going to have a lot of action. It doesn't have a lot of components to it. It does have an Antron body, any color you want, and then it does call for a partridge aftershaft feather. So where's the aftershaft feather on a partridge skin? Well, pretty much under the saddle feathers right here. You can lift these up and you'll see the aftershaft feathers, and then the collar hackle is just one of the shoulder feathers up here. So it's a pretty fun tie. I know it's going to be effective. I think you're going to like it. Let's give it a shot. So there it is in the vise, the Ron Landis pattern called the Finch. Now, common sizes for this guy are 12 to 16. I'm going to tie it on a 12. It's a 1X long wet fly hook. Fairly standard barbless right here. Okay. And for my thread, it's a tan 70 denier. I'll lay a base down to the start of the bend. Now we have some options with our dubbing. Recipe calls for an Antron in any color you want. And the one in the book was a green, but I'm going to go with an amber. Just this little orangish right here, kind of a ginger color I think it's called, but put enough on here. We're going to dub it up to just a little bit more than halfway. Okay, now here's a little tip for new tires. I'm putting the noodle on thin at the front and thicker as I get toward the back, but push it up there close to your hook and then take a couple of wraps, and as soon as you get some purchase like that, 2 or 3 wraps, you can pull it tighter and then spin it a little tighter if you want. It'll help you get a tighter noodle if you want. So go ahead and take it up to, I'd say, just a little bit past the halfway point. Okay, that's going to be fine. That's probably a little bit farther than I wanted, but I was too lazy to pull some of that off, so you can tell I just tried to wrap it in tighter. So the next part of the body, just some peacock herl. I'm going to do 2 strands right here, and I'm going to catch it in right here, and this is not a whole lot, but I'm going to wrap some of it over the little bit of the front of that body that I really shouldn't have gone that far forward with, but we're fine. Now just 4 or 5 turns right here. This really gives you a 2-tone kind of body. And you might want to just spin this together if it's starting to spread out on you. Give it a couple of turns. Okay, I think that's going to be fine right there. Remember, we've got 2 more components after this herl. And what you can also do if you're getting lazy, put some tension on your thread and just break these off right here. Save them for your next fly. But if you do that, you probably do want to put a couple extra wraps right here. Just make sure you've caught those ends in. Okay, so that's a pretty nifty looking body. I like that. Next component is a partridge aftershaft feather. Not sure if I mentioned in the intro or not. The recipe does say partridge aftershaft, a gray one, but it also says or hen. So what do they mean by a hen aftershaft feather? Well, I guess they just mean a chicken. But I did have partridge, so that's what I'm using here. And you could use pheasant, I'm sure. Okay, now here's a tip for this one. This feather is kind of delicate. I mean, it's not fragile, but it's not real strong. So if I grabbed it with my hackle pliers, I'd probably risk breaking it. So I've been just wrapping it with my fingers, kind of trying this number right here. I will spin it around, and I want 2 or 3 wraps. See what I'm doing right here? That's 2, and I'm just kind of pushing it around and holding it with my finger as I go. And it's going to be a little bit buggy, but that's fine. We'll do some cleanup here in just a second. Okay, I've got 2 wraps in. Now I do have that top piece I need to cut off. But this is going to be enough. This is going to be really all we need. So I'm going to take a few extra wraps right here, just trying to smooth out this base for the partridge hackle I'm about to put on. And I think we're going to be fine right there. I got a little bit of this Antron coming off. I might need to trim that up when we're done. Okay, now the last component on this guy, it's just the partridge hackle. One of the shoulder feathers up here like this. And what I'll do, I'll grab the tip and create a little tie-in point right here, sort of like that. Try to get even, same number of feathers pulled back. So I've got that right there. Let's just catch this in on my side right here. Maybe 2 or 3 good thread wraps I think will be sufficient. Okay, now you can fold it back over on itself and put another wrap down. I'm not going to because I'm already starting to crowd my eye a little bit, and that might create too much of a step down. So a couple of wraps right here just to try and smooth that out. Now I'm definitely going to take my hackle pliers on this guy and just see if I can get, well, at least 2 wraps. We'll see what it looks like after 2, and if we can get 3, it might call for 3, but usually 2 is going to be enough. Okay, there's 2 complete wraps right there. That's definitely going to be enough hackle. So let's go ahead and catch this off. Couple wraps right here. Before I let it go out of my hackle pliers, I'm going to go ahead and trim it off. Now let's just work on our head. I'm going to pull this back a little bit and then ramp it back up. Give me a good size wet fly head here. Enough room for whip finish and some head cement. Okay, I think that head is going to be fine. Now here's another tip. Before you do the whip finish, leave your thread at the back of your head. That way you won't risk any of these thread wraps going down and crowding your eye. That's a good thing to keep in mind if you are starting to crowd your eye. Just be careful that you don't trap any of these hackle fibers when you're doing your whip finish. That happens from time to time. Now I'm gonna just pull my thread tight, reach in here and kind of slice that off. And there we go, Ron Landis's finch. Drop a head cement and this thing's good to go. Maybe a little bit of cleanup. All right, everybody, I appreciate you watching. Y'all take care and we'll see you next time.